All right, so Biden, President Joe Biden, the most coherent, the most articulate president we've ever had, the most youthful and energetic leader of the free world we've ever seen. Joe Biden is bringing troops home from Afghanistan. So, isn't that great? That's great news, right? Wrong. Here's why it's not great news. Number one, it's going to create a void because the dark state, it's my new name. I've come up with it. I've coined it. Someone else uses it. That's fine. Because it's really not that deep. It's just dark. It's right there. It's shallow. So it's the dark state. And the dark state says, we bring the troops home so we can deploy the troops to places here in the United States. And they won't be sending them to the southern border because the goal of bringing troops home really is to create more chaos and not less, and to signal more authoritarianism, not less. We saw that when the Capitol fence went up, double fence, razor wire on the top. I don't think it's still completely come down yet. I think they pushed it toward the White House more. They brought it in, but they haven't completely taken it down. So you may think, hey, at least Biden's going to bring the troops home from Afghanistan. And I applaud that. I think that's a good thing. It's been about 20 years overdue, actually. But that's not the end of the story. And we also have to find out if he's pulling all the troops out, or, a week before the pullout, you'll get this little blurb in the back page of some newspaper that says, oh yeah, and by the way, just as a precautionary measure, we're going to leave about 1,000 troops behind just to do security and just to, keep the peace. Okay. Then 5 months later, they'll send 1,000 troops back in, and by next year, you'll have like 10,000 troops on the ground again. So we don't really know if that's actually going to happen, but they're certainly putting a signal out there. And you know what's interesting is the talking heads on Fox News and MSNBC. Like if Tulsi Gabbard or Donald Trump said that they wanted to bring troops home, right? And they would then get peppered by the media. Well, don't you believe that there's a terrorist threat in this region? And what are we supposed to do? Our allies need our presence in the region and blah, blah, blah. Notice how nobody is saying that about Biden's withdrawal plans, except for like Liz Cheney and Karl Rove, right? They'll be talking about it because there's never a withdrawal that they're in favor of. And they'll go out there saying, we need to put more troops in there. Guys, gals, they're not doing this because it's a strategic move. They're not doing it because we've been there for too long. They're doing it because we need more troops here at home. And I think there might be a plan underway to militarize the police, and even worse than just militarize the police, but federalize the police force, at least in these major urban areas. This is how you get around that little thing that Trump had an issue with. I'm not sure if I should send the troops to Portland. People were pushing back saying we don't want this military presence here. So, hey, if you make the military a domestic police force, then you pretty much just jump over that problem. And the media goes, oh, what a brilliant idea. Let's centralize the police force. Let's make it even more authoritarian, where you have command central. Look, the Pentagon needs more work to do. Raytheon's got to build more Humvees and armored equipment and whatever else. Well, Raytheon probably doesn't do that. But anyway, you need more of that stuff. And you'll see Wall Street, wow, they're going to militarize the police. My stocks are going to go way up. And as authoritarianism creeps in even more and more, and people's rights get trampled on, and people cower in their little local communities trying to say, hey, You know, we just need to make our little place a better place as the world out there begins to close in. I honestly don't know how you're going to do that. I don't know in the long run how that's going to work out, because when these people have control of your county and your city, and they're going to go in there, and they're also going to play games with the local government and say, hey, if you act a certain way, we're going to provide you with logistics, we're going to give you more hardware, we're going to give you grants and funding for things that you need in your local community. This is why you need decentralized government, and you needed it yesterday. Look, I'm not a pure libertarian, but there are some big libertarian concepts at work here. And one of them is self-government. One of them has to do with a localized law enforcement that works within the community and pushes back against federal control. And, you know, you see this in pretty much every aspect of your life, whether it's education, whether it's tax policy, whether it's people telling you which bathroom is appropriate and so forth. This stuff has gone completely bonkers. And if you're thinking that, hey, maybe Biden is going to be the peaceful president, well, he sure isn't stoking peace here at home, is he? He may not be as interested, or at least the dark state right now, they're not as interested in Afghanistan. I mean, look, they've got a big anniversary coming up here. It's a 20-year anniversary of 9/11 coming up. So I don't think they want to be in Afghanistan, like in Afghanistan, even though, you know, you send a drone over there. Actually, you couldn't, because they would shoot it down. But if you had a drone over there to kind of film it, there'd be troops over there. There'll be troops there on September 11th. Maybe not quite as many. Maybe they'll be reassigned. Maybe it's kind of like the shell game. They'll put them over here, put them over there, and then a little skirmish will break out and they'll all be back. We'll see what happens. Like I say, I think right now their focus is on all of the so-called domestic terrorism that they believe is a bigger threat than anything happening over in Afghanistan, right? That's got to be it. But this is a really bad situation, obviously, for this country, because rather than decentralizing and pushing the power back to the individual and to the local governments that know best for in what's right for their communities. And by the way, this was happening under Trump as well, just not as aggressively. And Trump had a way of couching it and making it sound better, and, you know, didn't speak in the kind of code language that you hear now. But quite honestly, the results are pretty similar. And that's one thing that I'm coming to grips with. Some of the things that Trump did before he left office, again, I want to see government locally. I want to see the power actually go back to the states and back to the individuals, because that's the way the Bill of Rights works. That's when things, especially at the federal level, it's just out of control crazy. And if we don't want to be enveloped by this authoritarian giant mothership, which is landing right now, we need to push back, and we need to tell our local politicians that enough is enough. That is really our only hope for the future.